Welcome to I'm Well Aware, the show that'll leave you more aware than you were before. I'm your host, Sabrina Schielein, and I'm here to help sift through the noise of wellness. Come with me on a never-ending journey to live a happier, healthier, and more fulfilled life. I'm glad you're here. I interview expert guests and people with incredible stories. We have a lot to learn from each other, so let's dive in. David Gergis.
Yes.
So excited to have you on I'm Well Aware today. I am bringing you on today. You're my accountant. I've been working with you on all the stuff that I've been doing lately, and I've learned so much from you. Thought it would be super helpful to share your wisdom and your knowledge with people. Maybe we can kick things off and chat about financial wellness. Like my show is definitely all about trying to live a happier, healthier life. And there's so many avenues when it comes to health and fitness and wellness, but there's also financial wellness. That is such a huge part of it that I don't think there's tons of awareness for people on what they should be doing, what they shouldn't be doing, and kind of chasing that dream. So welcome to the show. Excited to have you on.
Thank you so much, Sabrina. It's really an honor to be here today. That's a great question that you asked. I have to say this. A lot of the times people have to stop looking at social media as the actual guide, because we have to always remember, are they giving you the right advice? You have to go ask questions. And I feel like a lot of people don't want to do that. They just want to make it on their own. And that's not the case. So for example, when we met, I didn't know you had a bad experience, but this is the reason why I started my firm, is because of exactly what you went through.
When I first talked to the first accounting guy that I found, I asked one question and I wanted to cry. He was basically made me feel like I was so stupid for even asking that in the first place, and just didn't make me feel welcomed. And I was like, I don't know if this is the right fit. So then I looked again on Google reviews, found you, and it was a whole different experience based on you. And I think that's the thing, if you're questioning who you're talking to and it's not feeling right, and you don't feel like you're going to get the most helpful information, get a second opinion. Talk to someone else who might be a better fit for you, and I'd be a better fit for them. I definitely wasn't that guy's ideal clientele, but for what you're doing, we definitely were a great match.
I'm not happy that happened to you, because I don't want anyone to go and get spoken in that way. Listen, you're young, you're excited, you want to start a business, you want to have that entrepreneurial role. But sometimes if you don't have that mentor or somebody guiding you, it's kind of like you're just trying to figure out the pieces, and it could take you years to figure it out. So when you came to me, you're the exact ideal client that I look for, because I know what you're going through. I know exactly how you feel. You're very excited and ready to do, you're I'm just going to jump in this water and go with it. But me, when I was in your shoes, I didn't have a mentor. I didn't have anybody pushing me. What I had to learn was I have to ask questions. So when you encountered that firm and they were aggressive with you, it's because they only think about money. And sorry to say, yes, we're in the business of making money, but there's the questions that you asked them, you asked me. I didn't charge or anything like that, because you can go get it at Google. You can go find it on ChatGPT, all these new AI stuff that's coming out. And we'll talk about that later, because that's going to be a big piece. But the people that I want to build them from the ground up, and then give them the tools that they need to grow and succeed. And I feel like when I started doing that, I felt like people trusted me, and they were like, I'm going to stick with you. I want to do business with you, because you give me a sense of comfortability that a lot of my competitors in this industry do not give you. They just want the bottom line.
Truly, that patience and that trust that we've built, it takes away the anxieties around the financial portion that, even though I worked in corporate finance for 5 years doing creative roles, I don't know this level of LLC, this level of accounting that is needed. So like you really do take a lot of the weight off of me in that sense and allow me to feel more confident from the start, going into it, doing it right, making sure that I'm on track. The reason that I started my own LLC, which I'm doing client work for, and then I'm also supporting my own podcast under it, is because I'm chasing my dream. I'm going after what I want. And a place I'd want to start off even with you, David, is like, what did you want to be when you grew up? Like, what did you have in your mind of like what you wanted to do?
I wanted to play in the NBA, to be honest with you. Yeah, to be honest.
It's never too late.
Oh, it's way too late. It's way too late. No, I was really obsessed with basketball because when I was playing basketball, I got to meet a core group of guys that were like different backgrounds. And it made me learn how to like, I guess, not be that social awkward kid. And, playing basketball, you have to depend on somebody else. It's a competitive sport. So it was really fun for me, but I'm 5'8". I'm not going to dunk on anybody or anything like that. But as I got older, I kind of used that. My mom and my dad used to tell me, use the skills that you're good at. I was really good in science and math. I did great in college. I got my master's in accountancy and tax, which that's where the tax side came in, which I love it. I mean, I always tell people that's one thing, you guys have to like learn. It's one of the things that you don't have to get everything, but if you can learn tax, especially like individual tax returns, you really don't need a tax preparer. You can go file it yourself. If you're a U.S. citizen, you can go file your taxes by yourself without anybody or going to pay for it.
It's such like a black hole though for so many people. It's so intimidating to even start getting into the world of understanding. If your brain isn't wired like that, if your brain doesn't like math, or it just isn't in that way, or you don't have a mentor or someone guiding you, it's really hard to figure it out on your own.
Everything else though, Sabrina.
No, it is.
When you're trying something new, we always say that. And I feel like that's the thing. We have to like kind of like get away from that a little bit. You have to like
believe that you can learn something new.
Anything, a new language, how to create a podcast, all these things, because you're limiting your life, which we literally have little of. We're not going to be here for 1,000 years. So it's something where I always try to like harp people, especially my clients. I like, so I used to work in the corporate world, and I used to see that a lot of people would cut throat trying to become the head or the leader in my industry. And I was the same person. I'm trying to advance. I'm trying to become the CFO of this company. If you're doing that for somebody, right, for a company that's paying you every 2 weeks or whatever the case may be, you should be doing that for yourself. You should be, you're giving them all your time and energy. You should be giving that to yourself to better yourself in whatever it is. So with the tax part, I always harp and try to teach as well. So sometimes, like let's say I do your taxes, right? And you're like, just curiosity, how do I do this? I have no problem showing you. You should know how to do this. You shouldn't be just giving your stuff to somebody and they're doing it and you haven't got a letter yet from the IRS. That doesn't mean you shouldn't know. You should know so that you know exactly what's happening and not just saying, well, my tax guy is doing it.
Yeah. No, it's such a great point, for sure. And even what you were saying with like career advancements and what you want to do, I think it's really important to lean into whatever passion or what ignites you just for fun, even in the beginning. Try some things out. I remember my old employer told me that company was my priority and not my podcast, and that I need to remember that when I was working 11 to 16 hours in the office and doing my podcast on the weekend, just trying to learn and grow in an area that I was interested in. And legally, there is no problem with me having a passion project outside of work that is not connected to work. There was no mention, and I'm not saying that I'm reflecting the views of my company. It was completely separate. And I think a lot of people are nervous to even go and do a passion of theirs if it is public, like a podcast or something on social media or whatever it might be, because they think that like you can get in trouble to a degree. And I know everyone's situation's different, I'm sure. I'm not saying I know all the employment like rules, but I know that for them to say that to me, it was pretty wrong. It was me trying to advance my career, trying to work hard at that job, but do this on the side. And like, no one should be telling you to give up on your dream if you really are passionate about something and you're going after it. And I'm so happy that I didn't listen to that and that I kept doing what I wanted to do and ended up leaving that company eventually, and I'm going after it. But really, like, reflecting on, do I want to wait until the person above me leaves their role to make the next advancement, or do I want to try to take charge and make that initiative for myself? Like, where do I see myself? Do I want to be doing that boss's job? I know it's the next role that is in the path that I'm supposed to be following, but do I even see myself happy doing that? And I think I got to the point where I was like, I don't actually want that job. So what is it that I'm working towards? If it's the W-2 paycheck where you clock in, clock out, take your money and are able to put it into your business, that's a different story. But if your goal is, you think that you're supposed to be getting to that boss level, but that's not even what you want to do. Like, I suggest that everyone takes a look at, your career is 40 years. It's not just, the 5 years or the next year. What's my role going to be next year compared to what it's been? It's like, you have a long career. So if you want to change your path, or you want to make your own business, or you want to get into something, there's no better time than now, because when you start today, yeah, it doesn't happen overnight. Your business won't transform overnight and be this super successful thing right off the bat. But that consistency of showing up today compared to where it will be in 3 years and 5 years and 10 years is so different that if you never made the jump, you would never be there, even where you thought was possible.
No, that's a really great point. I mean, being an entrepreneur is not like a get rich quick scheme. Mm-hmm. It's for the long run. I mean, I did this with a client. I actually because they were like, when do I get paid? I was like, you really want to know when you get paid? All right. After you pay your suppliers, your employees, taxes, any loans that you took out, then you pay yourself. Entrepreneur is always going to get, I mean, if this is your baby, if this is your thing, you'll get that. You're gonna make money, but even if you made money, you still have to reinvest it, right? If it's a really popular thing, you want to duplicate it. You want to expound on this great success, and a lot of people don't like to hear that. They want to be like, well, I have rent and I have this and the third. I'm like, then go get a job. Mm-hmm. This is not for you.
Yeah, and I think this is a great point to even transition into, like, with that LLC, like some example scenarios that I think I want to be able to have people listen to this episode and try to picture themselves in these different types of roles and know when they should be doing what. So like, if you are at a job and you have this passion that you really want to do, you want to become a photographer for hotels, like one of my good friends is really wanting to do. And she's so talented at it. She's gonna kill it. When do you start an LLC? When do you just get the EIN? I think even these scenarios, like for her, what should she do? Baseline, isn't making any money from it, but wants to start.
I think the first thing somebody should do is contact some kind of professional. Mm-hmm. I think that's the number one thing that a lot of people skip, and just, oh, look, YouTube says this, or, TikTok is saying this, I can do this. This is what I'm looking for. When you speak to the professional, they're actually going to give you a little clarity. They're going to put it all in perspective for you versus you trying to do it on your own. So if somebody's having a W-2 job and they want to pursue their hobby or their dream, that is something I harp to each and every W-2 client I have. Ask them, hey, when are you going to go get when are you going to start your business? When are you going to start that you told me that you love, making music. When are you going to go into the studio and start recording and things like that? Because I know that this is not the goal. Working for somebody else is not the goal. Mm-hmm. You can still work for yourself and be great. Sometimes I tell people you don't need employees as well. It really is something that you can create, you can flower. But when you speak to somebody in the accounting world or the tax world, they're going to give you specific things that you're going to need to do and when. So if your friend is going to be a photographer for hotels, but she still has that 9 to 5, I commend her because this is perfect. This is a great thing because you got the money coming in that is going to pay for your living expenses, food, and all that stuff that are going to be fixed. And then you'll have that extra money that you can invest into your business, which I'm happy about because that money that you just got taxed on, you're paying for that new camera from B&H, let's say, that's a tax write-off. So the money that you got paid already, they're taking tax withholding. They're taking that automatically every quarter. So now I'm taking that money and going and buying a camera, and now I'm going to go use this camera to produce these photos for the hotels that they can use in ads. Mm-hmm. Even if you don't get paid, you're still allowed to write that off. Mm-hmm. And then when you write it off, it lowers your taxable liability from your W-2 job, meaning that the government is going to be like, hey, I saw that you have a side job. Here's this money back that we've been withholding as a refund. Yeah. Which you can use that again to reinvest in your business before going to a bank or a private, loan office or something to get money or credit cards. That's a big one where I tell people, be careful with these things because you have to pay them back. Yeah. So if you're not making money in the beginning, how are you going to pay that back? Mm-hmm. So it's, I don't like to say what to do, but I'm going to give you, options so that you can understand, okay, if I do this, David said that. Mm-hmm. I can go do this now because he said I can do this. So I'll put it in perspective so that there's no gray area. You know exactly what to do.
Yeah, no, that's super helpful for people to hear and just understand. It's funny. It reminds me of Schitt's Creek. Have you ever watched Schitt's Creek?
No.
There's this one episode where the son, his name's David actually, and he's like, it's a write-off. And he's like, and his dad's like, you do know what that means, right? He's like, the government pays for it. And he's like, well, who has to pay it now? And he's like, I don't know. And it was so funny the way that he was talking about it, but I feel like that's how a lot of people think of it. It's this foreign concept that we're not taught in school. We're not really taught entrepreneurial paths in school or anything like this. Even in college, I never learned anything. And sure, I could have taken actual entrepreneurship classes, but I really think that there is a need for an increase in overall education, life education. Of course, it's these are the things that all these spectrums of different things that you could need to learn in your life to know the options would be so helpful for people to get on track. So with the next step, so if we have someone who they're trying to get their passion project off the ground, they're on day one, at what point would it be smart for someone to open an LLC or start to kind of look to the next phase of where their business could go?
So let's put them all in buckets, right? So let's say the first thing you need to do is that you need to work on something called a business plan. Mm-hmm. Okay. A business plan is going to put everything in perspective. It's going to put all because I don't know what kind of business you want to do, right? But the business plan is going to lay it out for you. Mm-hmm. And one of the biggest pieces in that business plan is going to be your finance, your accounting. How much would I need to, let's say, for example, the studio space? How much is going to be the lease that I'm going to pay the landlord? How much is it going to be for the equipment? How much is it going to be for somebody if I hire people? Do I need to put them in W-2s or 1099s? How I'm going to have this operate? Meaning like, do I need a CRM system? Do I need a marketing strategy and all these things? All that takes money. So if you don't sit down and create a business plan, and not saying when you create it, you have to do it right away. You can still do pieces here and there, but it kind of lays out for you where your journey is going to go, how it's going to move. Then let's say, okay, I'm ready to purchase things and and I guess do the bookkeeping side, right? You don't need an LLC until you make actual income. When I say actual income, it's not like $5,000. It has to be 50, 80, 100,000. When you start seeing those figures coming in, that's when you're going to need it, because you're making really a lot of money and you want to protect yourself in case somebody wants to sue you or take some legal action. At least you're protected. But if, let's say you don't have that yet, my thing is, with the next thing you should do is be very organized. So typically you're going to need a business bank account when you're running your business. If you haven't made money yet and you don't have your LLC, all these things, you don't need that yet. What you need to do is you're going to use probably your personal bank account or a personal credit card in the meantime, right? Because a lot of people think that, oh, I can just use this. No, you need to separate what you do for your personal life versus what you do in your business. It just, because when you commingle, you don't know what's real and what's not.
It's hard to keep track.
Exactly. And when you're doing finance and accounting, you have to be organized. So what I tell clients is make sure that you have some kind of an Excel sheet. You want to track down your date, the category, meaning the description of that expense that you bought, and then the amount. And then you also want to save the receipts because in case one day down the line, it's a good practice because you will get audited. I don't care if you did something wrong or didn't do anything wrong, they will audit you. It's a matter of time. But if you start in the beginning, these good practices, it's like nothing for you. It's going to be like secondhand nature for you. And that's why a lot of times when you do grow, you're going to hire a bookkeeper. You're going to hire people who are going to take care of that for you because you're traveling and you know, making sure that your business grows, right? So, for example, within the city of Hoboken, which is where I'm at and where my business is in New Jersey, there's this little beautiful coffee shop called The Hive.
My favorite.
Now, The Hive, when it first started, it was just a regular coffee shop. What they did was genius, was they started selling cinnamon buns.
Oh, they're so good.
The reason why I'm so I spoke to them and I'm like, how did you do this? They sell the cinnamon buns, certain flavors, every Friday. It's a limited edition, and they bake it every 30 minutes, so it's fresh out the oven, and that's it. You're not allowed to get any more. That landed them more money. I mean, there's lines outside that. I mean, if you've been there, there's lines out there. And what I loved about them is that now they got a second location. Now they're in Good Morning America.
Oh, yeah.
So it's like you have Blake Lively shouting you out on Instagram saying, these are the greatest cinnamon buns. And it's like, how did that happen? You're not ready for that. You're not prepared for that. But what they were prepared is that everything they were doing was organized. So whenever that thing that was going to skyrocket them to like amazing success, they were ready for. It was easy. It was natural. Because it's, like I said, you copy and paste. That's how like franchises work. That's why like places like Starbucks, Chick-fil-A, all these places, you know, they know how to expand because they got the formula. And a lot of the times it's organization. So when you organize yourself on that piece of getting those expenses down, you're good to go. Now, when you start making money, that's when you need another meeting to see like, how are you going to set up your business structure?
Mhm.
Because a lot of people are like, oh, it's LLC. Yes, but is that the right structure for you at this time? Because you might be making a lot of money. Being under an LLC, a lot of people don't know, you're getting taxed in totality 50%.
Mm-hmm.
So you're telling me if I make 100,000, I got to give the government 50? Yes. How do I avoid that? And that's where we start looking at different type of structures. You know, how do we minimize your taxable liability to the government? So it's always good to have that LLC, but there's also other business types. And, you know, a lot of people hear this, but when you start looking at the other business types, like for example, S corporations,
Mm-hmm.
the reason why this was created was because they allow you not to be taxed on the self-employment tax, which is 15.3%. That's payroll tax.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're just regular LLC, you're going to get federal, state, and that. Now, when you upgrade to that S corp or be taxed as an S corp, you're only allowed the federal and state on the remaining income. But the issue is a lot of people are like, okay, cool, I want that. But you have to put yourself on payroll because as an S corp, you're the employer and the employee. So you're going to have shares and distribution, and you're going to need to put yourself on payroll.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, oh, but you know, I'm just trying to like put money in my pocket. That's where I say being an entrepreneur is not the same thing as what they're thinking. It's not that, oh, I'm just going to make all this money and I'm going to be happy.
Mm-hmm.
Not in the United States.
Yeah. And something else I want to touch on too, we talked about it, is like the expenses portion of it. So when you are setting up your business, when you are doing this, I think people don't always know what types of expenses you can put under your business. What are some examples? People might be missing some things that they can use as an expense if it's supporting their business that they're not even realizing, like your computer, your camera, all these things. Like, what would be your advice for people in terms of understanding the expenses side of it a bit more?
And that's where like it's important to talk to somebody because you can't just go buy something and say, I'm going to write it off.
Mm-hmm.
It has to make sense. So when you say like laptops and things like that, what are you using it for?
Mm-hmm.
You know, cell phones is a big one that I get. Oh, I can write off my cell phone? Like, well, is that your business line? Is it just for business? No. And I'm like, no, you cannot write the whole thing off. It only has to be a certain percentage. Another big one a lot of people always ask is, oh, can I, so when I leave my home and I go to my office, like my studio, let's say, I can write off that trip? No. And they're like, but why not? It's a business. I'm not going to work. It's business. I'm like, yes, but when you leave your home, that's your home is your primary residence. It's not an actual business or office. So when you leave to go to your office, that's not a write-off. But when you go from, let's say, the office to like a meeting at somewhere, that is a write-off because you're still on business time.
Mm-hmm.
Now, like if you have a home office, now that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Now you can write off from your home to your office and from your office back to your home because you have that deduction. You have a home office dedicated for that.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where you need to speak to somebody because they'll make it easy for you. They'll make it where the gray areas make sense or they'll make it all set up for you so that you know what to write off. But the basic, so this is right out the irs.gov. If it's ordinary and necessary for your business, then it's a write-off.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think too, like I had a friend recently who the accountant that she was working with wrote off her whole apartment as her home office. And she outlined the square footage of the one room that she would work from. And he like missed it. And now she's being audited.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
And
That's one of the biggest audit checks. So when you put home office,
it's not the whole place.
It's 100% you're going to get audited because a lot of people, And sometimes that's why I say you need to be educated when your tax preparer is doing your return, because there's going to be people who are going to like get you this beautiful refund, but you don't know how they got it.
Yeah.
So then when you get the letter, you're like, hey, I got this letter. It's not my fault.
Yeah. And that's why it's really important to actually understand what's going on, what's allowed, what's not allowed, just doing things right. So, I mean, the first thing I think I told you on the phone was like, I don't want to go to jail. Like that's my goal here is to do what I want, to build my business, to follow my dream, but not go to jail.
Yeah. I joke with my clients when they get a letter and they're like, I got a letter. I was like, well, what court are you going to be at? I'll see you there. and they're like, don't play around,
Yeah.
But sometimes so real quick, the home office is just a suggestion. Mm-hmm. If you actually have a home office deduction, it does make sense. Let them audit. It's okay. You didn't do anything wrong. You actually hit all the checks because the guy who's your accountant or tax preparer set you up. Mm-hmm. But if they did it without your knowledge, that person's going to be in big trouble because there's no proof. Usually there's like, hey, she gave me the square footage and this is what she told me to put down. Mm-hmm. So if it's that type of deal, then yes, they're going to get, they're going to like shut their office down. The IRS will. Mm-hmm. But unfortunately, you'll be stuck with it and you still have to pay them back. It's like,
isn't it like a 7-year audit that you could be on or something like that? If you get audited, they kind of like keep a very close track of you.
Yep.
And I think that was one of my friend was like, I wish I took just better care of my receipts and my tracking, which is like, what are the do's and don'ts of all of this is like, that you mentioned before is the organization part is huge. It's the key. If you are trying to start your business and then you wait a year to meet with an accountant and then they're like, well, you need all of this information from the past year to backtrack. Do you know how long that's going to take you to go through all of that versus if like with you from day one, I met with you in the beginning to make sure that I understood what I have to do to be organized and keep myself on track, that now it's easy. It takes me 5 minutes to like 20 minutes after, a business trip that I'm going on or whatever it is to organize myself. That's a way better way and less anxious way to just get everything on track so that a year down the road, 2 years down the road, when you've been doing this for a bit, you're not scrambling to try to get things under control.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's why I say you have to be organized. Like, mm-hmm. You have to make sure everything's in line. You have all your receipts just because you're going to need it, mm-hmm. And just don't go to your tax guy or your accountant and just say, here's my bank statements, figure it out.
Mm-hmm. And now, like, what are the challenges, David, when it comes to small business and starting off a plan? I think like taking it day by day is like the best thing you can do. But what do you think some challenges that people should think about when they are looking to start a plan, a business, just getting their passion project underway?
It takes time. Mm-hmm. And that's why I say, don't leave your job. That's the thing that's funding it. You still need it. And take your time with it. You don't need to have all the answers right away. You need to know how to be a marketer. You need to learn how to be a salesperson. You need to know how to do HR work. You need to know how to do your finance. There's a lot of roles because, I always say it's good to know something versus just hiring somebody because they can screw you because they're going to know that you don't know what's going on. Mm-hmm. So they're going to take advantage of you. But when you know certain things and you can do like checks on people, you feel confident. And that takes time, mm-hmm. And there's no rush to this. Mm-hmm. You're going to always be an entrepreneur. If this is what you really want to do and you take your time with it, it would last you forever and maybe pass it down to family and all these things, and they're going to remember you like you're the one that started it. Mm-hmm. So
Exactly.
it's really being patient.
Yeah, I really love that. The thing I want to move into next is also the rapid advancement of technology and how that has come into play with accounting and taxation. What have you seen tools wise or technology that you'd want to share for people to kind of understand?
Yeah. So my industry is really there. It's really changing quickly because of AI. So there's a lot of new technology that's coming out that you really don't need us anymore. Literally,
I
like
need you still, David.
no, and I'm saying it in a way where it's really like, for example, like it's going to be like Amazon one day. It's going to be like all I got to do is just plug in my info and it does it all for myself and I'm done. That's how it's going to be.
Mm.
And a lot of people don't want that to happen because they just learn the internet. Like, so it's going to be a lot of space, a lot of room, but I love it because it's an opening for me. I love technology. I love where it's going right now. It gives me more time to educate versus like, I have to do work. Don't bother me. I'm busy right now. I have so many returns and I have so many things to do. No, now AI is going to allow me to sit down and really have a plan with you. Well, teach you how all this is working so that you can understand and take these numbers and blow your business up to where it should be.
I love your view on AI. I think AI scares a ton of people. And I think there's a lot of, like you said, room for opportunity where if you use it the right way, it could actually be allowing for a lot more free time for you and even more time for you to do other things that you want to do or other passion projects. You started your own business and have launched that. Like, I just think it's great to hear your perspective as an accountant and tax person in the industry, that it doesn't scare you. It excites you because, again, then you get to do more of what you like, which is meeting with people, educating people, helping people along the process, and then taking that other portion and getting it quicker and then being able to do thorough checks like yourself after. I mean, AI, I think, at least from what I've experienced, it's getting there in tons of different categories, even in podcasting and editing and all this stuff. I have found stuff that works, stuff that doesn't work, but like I think leaning into it, not being afraid and seeing how it could actually benefit your life, these tools around you, what you can do, is just going to help us all be more efficient and happier in what we're doing.
Yeah. And I mean, just like the name of the show, you got to be aware. When you're aware of these things, you can adapt to it quicker and you can see what, like you said, works, it doesn't. And it's all to improve what is already is working, but you never know that you could have found something that could actually be beneficial where instead of waiting it 5 years, you caught it 5 years prior. So you got to be open-minded, definitely.
Yeah. No, I completely agree. Talking about tools, David, I know that you have an ebook and you also have a spreadsheet that's been so helpful for me in everyday accounting, income accounting. Which would you like to chat about what you have on your site and what you have available for people as resources?
The reason why I speak this way is because I mean, I started my business while working. So I know exactly what it took. So I knew when, for example, when I used to, do my own taxes, I used to be like, wow, like people really, like, how can I get more organized? How can I be more efficient? So I'm really good in Excel and Microsoft tools. And so I started building things in Excel where all I had to do is input or download, like say, for example, my bank statement. If I can get it as a CSV file from the bank statement, I would put it in a tab and then the next tab would generate all this income statement for me. Yeah. So I was like, oh, not knowing, mind you, like I'm still building my business. So I started creating these tools And then one of the other tool that I thought was very beneficial is, wouldn't it be cool if somebody knew what to write off? That's where I was like, okay, but how can I make it easier? So I kind of like figured what were like the really big industries, like e-commerce, real estate, services, retail. So these are like big industries. And I try to say, okay, how can each one of them use the same expense? So I came up with from A to Z. So it can be easy. So if you want to see, for example, uniforms, you just go to U and I'll tell you how it's going to be applicable for your business and how it's used to be a write-off or a deduction, whatever the words is. And people really loved it because they were like, oh, okay, at least they gave them a sense of, I know what I can do and what I can't. So for example, like there's a part in there for meals. Meals are 50% deduction. But when COVID happened, the government said, well, we're allowing 100%. So my ebook, the cool thing about it is that the reason why it's an ebook and not a physical book was because I can change due to whatever the laws are happening. So that at least when you go to it, you're like, oh, wait, it's 100% now. Oh, cool. Versus where I can go and go change it after 2022, starting 2023. They were like, nope, it's going back to 50% now. Things like that, I felt like people really loved it. They felt like I was there without being there. They felt confident. What I noticed is that they were teaching other people. They were talking about it, not me. So I have a lot of tools. And if you go to my website at www.everydayaccounting.com, there's a place there where I put, calculators, tools to use, tax dates that you might not know about, tons of, even a newsletter to keep you informed, to have you educate yourself, where it's a one-stop shop versus, okay, I take this, I'll copy it, paste it in Google, figure it out, see what I gotta piece together. So I kind of made it easy like that for clients because, again, yes, I'm here to help you with the accounting, payroll, taxes, all that stuff, but I'm really here to educate you. I'm really here to let you know that you can do this by yourself.
Yeah. And I'm going to link your ebook and your resources in the description show notes. So for anyone that's listening, definitely go check it out. The link will be right there, easy for you to access. And really just like want to thank you for creating all this and really driving change in people's lives. You've changed my life in so many ways, and I know that you will continue to do so for others. So my advice, if you are in the Hoboken area, if you're looking for a great accountant, I know a guy.
Yeah.
and know that there are resources out there that can help you get to where you want to be.
And it's free.
And it's free. I've two final questions for you here, David.
Yeah.
I know I can't believe that we're already almost at the top of the hour. I feel like we could chat forever.
I can talk about this for a long time.
What is your dream with your accounting practice? What do you want to be creating for people here?
It goes back to the education part. My dream with this is, yes, I'm building a firm, and one day I want it to be all over New Jersey and all that good stuff. But my real purpose and dream project is to create some kind of educational piece, not only for adults, but for children. Because you harped about something where in school they don't teach you these things. And it's not only about taxes, about credit cards, how banking system works, which now the banking system is going to change soon. How do we navigate through that? Investment accounts, so many things that I feel like I wish there was like one place where I can go and learn and actually apply what I learned. And there's tons of like resources out there, in YouTube and things, but it's more of listening to people's problems after the fact and trying to give them advice versus just like, so I got kids, 6 and 3 years old. And one person that I kind of like look at is Miss Rachel. This
Oh,
lady
she's amazing.
teaches kids. So her background, if nobody knows, is that she's like occupational therapist by trade, where she teaches kids how to speak and things like that. And it's like a perfect channel for my kids to learn and be educated, and it works. They're applying what she's putting. I want that for my piece.
Mr. David.
Whatever, it's just really, I really feel like it's something that is needed, because it's not only for adults or young adults who are just getting out of college. It's even before then. I mean, you can start businesses. I mean, there's child actors. What do they do with their money?
Oh, 100%.
So it's not like you have to wait for a certain level or like you're ready now. It could have been started a long time ago when you learned how to, like, for example, play the piano. And now like you're selling or you're being booked to do these gigs. What do you know to do? How do you know to navigate?
100%.
So I feel like I want it to be that, like, if it's going to be like for children, I want it to be spoken in a way for children and done in a certain way that is not like boring.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it is a boring industry. I mean, I'm going to be honest. If you're not into it, especially if you're like a creator like yourself, you're going to snooze after a while. But I want to make it fun. So like
You're big on community, I feel like.
Oh, yeah.
Bringing people together, helping to educate people. I can't wait. When I have kids, I'm going to have them watch your videos. It's going to be a bit, so no pressure on timing.
See, the time, I'm not worried. It's going to happen. But when you say community, it's very, very important to me, especially in Hoboken. That place has been nothing but supportive with me. And I'm so grateful for that town, because they really take care of their people. So if you invest and put time in that area, they're going to uplift you. They're going to promote you. They're going to want you to win, because it's like they won.
100%. And my last question here for you, David, if you could give your younger self a piece of advice, what would you tell younger David?
Don't rush, be patient. Don't be embarrassed to ask questions. And the big one would be, don't be scared to lose. That was my biggest fear, because a lot of people don't like to start because they already feel like they're going to lose. And that was my mentality when I was younger. I wasn't really confident the way I am today. But once I knew that it's not a loss, it's a lesson, that changed my whole perspective. Like, oh yeah, like how would I can't get everything right. Like, of course I have to lose. That makes sense.
That's such great advice, David. I couldn't agree more. Just knowing that, what you want, you just got to think about it. Like, it's already yours. You already have to believe in yourself before anyone else will believe in you in the first place.
Correct.
I can't thank you enough for coming on my show, sharing your wisdom, your expertise. I know it's going to help tons of people. Like I said, if anyone's in Hoboken and they're looking for a great accountant, call David, go on his website, and all of that information is in the show notes. So I definitely have to have you back, because there's so much more that we need to talk about and help educate people on. But I want to thank you so much again for taking the time today.
No, thank you. I really appreciate it, Sabrina. Thank you so much.
Thanks for listening, and I'll see you back here next week on the path to becoming more aware.